Hello, class. Welcome back. Wanted to review in-text citations and MLA format and the sample student essay from reading and writing about literature. Obviously, right, hopefully by now you've read the essay. Rather than read the essay on the video, I want to point out what's specifically um, done well. There's in-text citations with the author's last name and either page number or paragraph number, abbreviated PAR period. In the rhetorical précis video, I reviewed how to set up your quotes with a complete sentence and a colon or a signal phrase and a comma. You can also integrate or blend your quotes into the sentence, right, by just integrating the words, using words like that or since or because. And if you remember in the section in the book, avoiding floating quotations in reading and writing about literature on page 46, it says that you want to make sure that you don't just have a sentence, a period, and then a quote. That's a floating quote. It means you just copied and pasted it and plopped it in there. You either set it up with a complete sentence and a colon, a signal phrase and a comma, or integrate it into your own words, integrate it into your sentence, excuse me, with your own words. And here are examples of that. You could see, so again, I'm on the Purdue .owl research and citation page for MLA format in-text citations. In addition to citing the quotes correctly in text in the sample student essay in the book, they also set up the quotes correctly and the works cited entry is done correctly. Now, we're familiar with the importance of creating a works cited entry for each of our secondary and primary sources, as we did in essay 1 and essay 2, right? You cited the story and your secondary sources for essay 1. You cited the poem and your secondary sources for essay 2. Make sure you're citing your fictional sources as well as your secondary sources for essay 3. The book that the book's description in reading and writing about literature of the secondary sources is very clear on how to cite print sources versus electronic sources. But let me just remind you of a few things again. If you want a different perspective, you can go to the Purdue OWL page under Research and Citation, MLA Works Cited, Basic Rules. Double space. Label it works cited. Don't italicize, don't bold, don't put a colon after it. Do capitalize the W, do capitalize the C. Indent every line after the first like you would the beginning of a paragraph. It's the opposite of a paragraph. Every line after the first for the citations. That's called hanging indent. Make sure your capitalization and punctuation is correct. Sources, the book, the journal, the database go in italics. The poem, the story goes in quotes, right? If you're citing a play, it's going to go in italics because you treat it like a book, right? Obviously, the name, the title, the websites, all that stuff. Just make sure that you are using hanging indent. And let me get to the sample works cited here. Well, the good thing is you could see the sample works cited page on 169 in your textbook. The other thing I wanted to remind everybody, on page 168, there's an example of a block quote. And before we get to that, I just want to show you hanging indent. See how every line after the first is indented? So please make sure that you put works cited, you center it, you put it in hanging indent, you put the italics around the correct things that need the italics, the quotes around the things that need the quotes, and you alphabetize it according to either the author's last name, right? Or if there's no author listed and you're citing by title, alphabetize it by the first letter of the title. The last thing I want to bring up is when you have a block quote, as our book tells us on pages 50 to 52, a block quotation is when you have 4 or more lines of poetry or more than 4 lines of prose, right? It starts on its own line. So you set it up with a complete sentence and a colon, you indent the entire quote, and you remove the quotation marks and the punctuation goes before the citation. So again, our book is clear on these rules, but if you Google block quotes, right? Not only will you see the 4 rules, but then you can click on the Purdue OWL website as well. And right, short quotes, you work them within the text, and a block quote. Notice how it's set up with a complete sentence and a colon, and then the whole quote is indented and the citation goes before the period. Now, hopefully we're feeling good on our in-text citations, our block quote citations, and our works cited. So now, right, hopefully everybody's feeling confident about that. And now what I want to do in the next video, and I'm going to push stop so that you can kind of take a break and I don't go right into it and you can watch them separately. But now I'm going to take you to the MESA database to get sources for SA3, criticalthinking.org to get sources for SA3. And remember, you can Google your author's name. And if they have a homepage, a website, just like Kate Chopin did, just like Maya Angelou did for SA2, or Edgar Allan Poe, you know, or whomever your poet was, if they had a web page, you can get sources from there. If you are writing about a poem, you can get your sources from any of the poetry websites that I suggested for SA2 as well. So stay tuned, more to come on that video. I'll be right back. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and please, as always, let me know if you have any questions.